Indiana is human after all. How worried should the Hoosiers be after almost getting upset by Iowa? And James Franklin is still James Franklin.
You are Locked On College Football with Spencer McLaughlin, your daily podcast on all things college football. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Locked On College Football. I'm your host, Spencer McLaughlin, and thank you all so much for making this your first listen or your first view every day. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, and your daily source to stay up to date with the biggest stories in this, the greatest and craziest sport on planet Earth. Lane Kiffin and Kalen DeBoer break through. Brian Kelly, yet not so much. Kirby Smart and Georgia are going to be fine. James Franklin and Penn State, however, I have concerns. Major concerns, and Arkansas is looking for a new head coach, and I think they're going to make a mistake. This episode brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the FanDuel app today. I'm starting with Indiana today. Why? Because they look like they were going to stumble, and they wouldn't have been the first pretty highly ranked team to go into Kinnick Stadium and walk out with a loss. It hasn't happened in longer than you'd probably think there in Iowa City, but it looked like the Hawkeyes were going to get it done. And wait, stop me if you've heard this one before. The offense didn't score enough. Whoa, I haven't seen it. 20-15 the final. Indiana avoids an upset. Now, on the one hand, I do feel good about Indiana in the sense that they were playing a very uneasy game. They were in, I think, somewhat of an emotional letdown spot coming off the dominant win against Illinois, who I still feel like is a good team. So in that sense, yeah, you feel good if you're a Hoosiers fan. You feel good if you are Curt Cignetti, but not good enough for me. On my 5-point scale in which I assess how the fans' mood should be for a particular fan base following a game, this is a no vibes win for Indiana. It's just, all right, bury the tape. That was ugly. Get out of here. Let's get ready for Oregon in a couple weeks. That's what Indiana is feeling after that game. We avoided a disaster. You don't get to feel good when you avoid a disaster. Iowa is not that good of a football team. They're not that bad, but they're not that good either. Now, the problem that Indiana showed in that game that I'm keeping an eye on going forward with the Hoosiers is Iowa pushed them around. That offensive line that was the star, as I talked about in their dominant win over Illinois, they ran for over 320 yards against the Illini. They got work. They couldn't pick up a yard when they wanted to. Iowa pushed them around. Fernando Mendoza was under pressure. And he looked like the Fernando Mendoza of his earliest days at Cal when they were trying to figure things out. They have a better quarterback over there at Cal now. Jaren Kiave Sangapolotele, know the name if you don't already. So for Indiana to have played that game raises my level of concern that they're not a fraud, but they don't look like the team that we thought they might have been against Illinois. That's not to say they aren't still good, or I don't think they should get credit. Later this week, once I finish putting it all together, I'm going to release my first ever top 25 ranking. That will be primarily reflective of what teams have accomplished up to that point, while also considering some of the other factors on their schedule. But resume is going to be paramount in the decision process there. Indiana, I'll tell you right now, will be a top 5 team, because a dominant win over a top 20 team in Illinois is indeed one of the better wins in college football this year because of the way in which they did it. But they went up against Illinois and they pushed them around. Well, Illinois saved their season over the weekend against USC. I talked about that on a Saturday reaction show. And the Trojans, again, were kind of pushing Illinois around a little bit. They did not look like a team. Brett Bielema prides himself on being a coach that talks about physicality a lot, and his team goes out and does that a lot. Illinois looks very finesse. So on the one hand, you do give Indiana credit for pushing around a finesse team. But what Indiana is trying to do this year is prove that they belong back in the college football playoff and that they can do more than just get there and do the Homer Simpson grandpa meme where they walk in, put their hat on the rack, do a 360, grab the hat and walk out, right? They want to do more than that. But teams that don't go far in the college football playoff generally aren't good enough up front. Indiana didn't look like they were good enough up front on Saturday. So just keep that in the back of your mind as you watch Indiana going forward. I don't worry about Penn State being good enough up front. I don't. Because I watched their trench play against Oregon, and Oregon's got a good offensive line. Oregon's got a quarterback in Dante Moore who's playing at an incredibly high level, so he's getting the ball out of his hands. He's also very mobile. Oregon ran the ball well, but it wasn't a dominant effort. Drew Aller was sacked a couple of times. Penn State's run game wasn't as good as it should have been. But I'm not worried about Penn State in the trenches. I'm worried about the same two guys who I put some stock in here, and they did not deliver. James Franklin and Drew Aller are indeed the same guys. You know, at Big Ten Media Days this year in Vegas, James Franklin wasn't particularly thrilled with the location because it was so far away from Happy Valley. I think it's a valid concern. Point to raise, however you want to phrase it. I think it's valid. But he was asked by myself and others about the big game narrative. And he said the great thing about it is they have a chance to control it and prove those people wrong. Here was your chance. Here was your moment. Everything on paper in this spot should have led to a Penn State win. It's why I picked them to win the game, even as an Oregon guy. I thought Penn State would win the game. Why? At home, off a bye, more experienced quarterback, big-time defensive coordinator hire. I'm pretty sure Jim Knowles is the highest-paid defensive coordinator in all of college football. He wasn't the problem. Gave up 17 points. At home, I'm sorry, Drew Aller's got to be able to do better than putting up 17 points in regulation and then throwing the game-losing interception. He's just got to be able to, and he clearly can't. This is twice now in games against the Ducks in which he's thrown the game-losing interception. And he threw the game-losing interception against Notre Dame. This has to feel like the worst version of Groundhog's Day for Penn State. It is the same thing over and over. It is Doctor Strange tormenting Dormammu in the first movie back in 2016. Dormammu, I have come to bargain. Kills Doctor Strange. Well, he's got it on a time loop with the Infinity Stone. Dormammu, I've come to bargain. There, he dies again over and over. That's what Drew Aller and James Franklin are doing to Penn State fans. All the potential and possibility in the world is there. They upgraded their receiver room. Their offensive line is back. Their coordinators are great. And Drew Aller and James Franklin, for whatever reason you want to come up with, can't deliver. Drew Aller didn't score a touchdown in this game until, I think, just past the midway point in the fourth quarter. They staged a late comeback. They had a lead in overtime, and then Oregon's offense made a couple plays. It shouldn't have gotten there. Your defense gave up 17 points. You paid Penn State, James Franklin. You paid Jim Knowles, I think it's in the neighborhood of $3 million to give you a performance like that against an offense like that. Oregon's offense, the only thing that's gotten in their way so far, they've played four not great opponents, but they have got a lot of talent on that side of the ball and a really good offensive coordinator in Will Stein. Mostly, the only thing that's gotten in Oregon's own way has been Oregon to this point, and that even hasn't happened much. Suddenly, they looked up and didn't have a touchdown in the first half. Why? Because the Penn State defense is still really good. So the goals Penn State had coming into this year are not gone because of this game. But yeah, this is the lowest of vibes for Penn State. Every Penn State fan that was wearing white on Saturday night in Happy Valley should have walked out of there, and I imagine they did, crushingly disappointed, not feeling, there are no moral victories. You can't, Penn State is not in that particular position, not this season, not this team with this staff and these players. That is not acceptable whatsoever. And for Drew Aller to go out there and make that mistake again, for James Franklin to come up short in a competitive game again, at some point you just have to go, well, we either have to be okay with who he is and hope that he can prove us wrong one day, or we just have to make a change. And I'm not calling for that because I know James Franklin is a good coach. But in these games, he is not. He is absolutely not. And he has a correct point to make. There are a lot of programs in just about any conference would love to be Penn State and have the amount of success that they can have and the caliber of recruits they can go after. Yep, they'd love to do that. They really would, Coach. But guess what? Penn State fans deserve more and better than that. And it's not about the defense. I think Penn State's defense is really good. One of the 10 best in all of college football. The offense, though, I think Penn State, Texas would be an interesting game. I think the over-under should be set at 17.5. Not for a team, just for the game. Because you've got two quarterbacks that are first-round physical talents in the NFL draft that go out there and play like fifth-round flyers when the lights get bright. Arch Manning will have a chance to change that narrative when Red River takes place. So, let me know your thoughts in the YouTube comments. Hit me up on Twitter. All of that good stuff. Alabama gets it done. What a game. Kind of. Lane Kiffin, though. I want to talk about Lane Kiffin. First, this episode brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Caffeine just got a flavor upgrade. 5 Hour Energy shots deliver tasty caffeine in 17 bold flavors. Each 2-ounce shot packs the caffeine of a premium 12-ounce cup of coffee, plus B vitamins and nutrients with 0 sugar and 0 crashes. What you'll love most about them is how portable they are. They've got big taste in a tiny shot. You could take it anywhere. Gym, golf course, study room, whatever you're looking for. 5 Hour Energy is there. If you want to play 36 holes in a day instead of 18, which I highly recommend unless you're the U.S. Ryder Cup team, in which case you should play 0 holes until Sunday when they finally showed up. Caffeine is something that a lot of people use to get you through, and 5 Hour Energy is what you want to use to get you through that second 18. Enough with boring, flavorless caffeine. It's time to give your caffeine a flavor upgrade with 5 Hour Energy shots. Get the favorites you love or be bold and try something new in store and online at 5hourenergy.com or on Amazon today. I picked LSU going into this game against Ole Miss, which I knew would be tough, competitive, hard-nosed, down to the wire, and it was. It was a great football game. Lane Kiffin came out on top, and the reason that I picked LSU is I felt like Trinidad Chambliss was more of a great story than he was a great player, and he's going up against LSU's defense. He is a great story. Present tense story is still being written. Ole Miss 24, LSU 19. It's not a bad defensive performance from the Tigers in this one. Secondary got a little handsy with the pass interference calls at times, and I thought they were correctly called, by the way. It just wasn't their best game. Quite frankly, I don't think this is a season ender, a disaster, horrible, no good, very bad outcome for LSU. I think this says more about Ole Miss. And there are problems with LSU that I will get to in just a moment. But for Lane Kiffin to have Trinidad Chambliss, who was playing at Division II Ferris State, come up into the SEC and go be a good quarterback, Garrett Nussmeier was on the field. I was high on Nussmeier coming into the year. I was high on Cade Klubnik coming into the year. Apparently, I gave those two guys' careers the kiss of death at the moment because it looks like they are falling off considerably. And I'll get to LSU. But Ole Miss, imagine saying this sentence out loud before the year. Can you imagine the comments you would have gotten from an LSU fan if you'd said this? But this was 100% true on Saturday. LSU is going to have a healthy Garrett Nussmeier, and he's going to be the second best quarterback on the field to a Division II transfer. That's not just what the QBR said from this game. That's what your eyes told you when you watched this game. Chambliss goes 23 of 39 for 314 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. Ole Miss ran for just 166 yards. Not bad. Not bad. Q and Lacey is a good back, hard to tackle. And, you know, LSU also forced a fumble inside the 5, or the Rebels might have eclipsed 30 points in this game. I'm still bullish on LSU's defense. I'm just that impressed with Ole Miss's offense. This is the Indiana-Illinois debate, you know, where Illinois gets beaten really badly by Indiana. And I said, no. This says more about Indiana because they're really good or capable of being really good. Illinois is still a good team. Picked Illinois to beat USC. What do you know? They beat the Trojans with a walk-off field goal. Again, I talked about that on Saturday. So for Chambliss to be in this spot speaks to Lane Kiffin and why he should be the next head coach of the University of Florida. Do you want to keep DJ Lagway around once you move on from Billy Napier? If you do, then Lane Kiffin's track record with quarterbacks here is really good. And whether Austin Simmons is healthy or not, I don't frankly care. I talked to Stephen Willis of Locked On Ole Miss on the show last week and said, look, is Austin Simmons going to play number 1? And number 2, does it even matter? We have our answer now. The answer is no. It does not matter. If Chambliss were to get dinged up and Simmons comes back in, Ole Miss will be fine. They've got 2 guys they can win with. I'd roll with Chambliss. The vibes are pretty good. Ole Miss is 5-0. And again, when I release my top 25 later this week, Ole Miss going to be very high because their resume with this win over LSU, mighty impressive. I am not that down on LSU. I am, however, down on LSU's offense. Brian Kelly has a problem. And the problem is that he cannot align good coordinator hires at the same time. Because Mike Denbrock was the OC for Jaden Daniels. He's now over at Notre Dame. CJ Carr, oh, look at that. The Notre Dame starting quarterback put up 56 points on the road at Arkansas this week. Talk about that later because he helped get Sam Pittman fired. And he's really good. He's a redshirt freshman. He's lighting the world on fire. Meanwhile, Garrett Nussmeier can't hit 200 yards passing against Ole Miss. And I know the Rebels have talent on that side of the ball. They had a good offseason. They went out in the transfer portal and added some real players. Garrett Nussmeier is a once projected first-round quarterback that is just playing himself out of that. And we are now almost to the midway point of the college football regular season, which makes me very sad, frankly, but that's the way that it goes. It's been fun. It will continue to be fun. But LSU's offense through their first 5 games. Remember when Brian Kelly got all upset? And I understand they beat Florida 20-10, and the first question is about why the offense wasn't better. Here's why the question is getting asked, Coach Kelly. Here's why the question was asked. Was it incorrectly ordered? Yes. Should you also have had a better kind of deflecting response to it? Yeah, but that's not the way Brian Kelly's wired. LSU's offense this year, 17, 23, 20, 56, that's against Southeast Louisiana, and 19. I heard discussion about this LSU wide receiver room being the best that it's been in years. You have a veteran quarterback in Garrett Nussmeier that I know can make NFL throws all over the field. Why is it this hard? One running back, I know Caden Durham's good. You're LSU. You shouldn't be completely incapable of running the ball, which they were, again, 57 yards against this Ole Miss defense. You shouldn't be completely incapable because a running back isn't there. You might. It's okay if you have a little drop-off. It's not okay to just become completely defunct on that side of the ball because you can't run it, and now your quarterback just looks like he's taking steps back. That's for a number of reasons. That is completely and utterly not okay. And so Brian Kelly has a problem. He cannot align good coordinator hires. Blake Baker, very good. Mike Denbrock, very good. They coached together at the same time at LSU for 0 seasons. 0. That's a problem. The offense has to get fixed. And I talked about that going into this game that, look, if you're an LSU fan, I suppose you'd rather have the offense be the problem than the defense. But the offense is a problem. There's no other way to see it. They play South Carolina at home this week. Yeah, South Carolina gave up, how many points was it to Vanderbilt? Let me just double check that here because we want to be accurate here on the show. Yes, Vanderbilt in Columbia, South Carolina put up 31 points. If LSU does not hit 31 points this week, let's continue asking questions about the LSU offense. So, speaking of questions, Kalen DeBoer in Alabama got a good vibes win. By the way, for Ole Miss, highest of vibes. LSU, no vibes. No vibes. It's disappointing to lose, but all right, we got to fix this going forward. You know what? No, I'm going to adjust that down. That's bad vibes. Bad vibes for LSU because the offense continues to look poor. For Alabama, I'm so tempted to give Alabama's win over Georgia no vibes. I can't because they snapped Georgia's home winning streak. So good vibes, but in no way did I consider the highest vibes for how Alabama fans should be feeling right now. I did not consider it for a single solitary moment when I thought about, what am I going? I was between no vibes and good vibes. I'll give you good. Road win, SEC, save the at-large playoff hopes. Okay, that's all really good stuff. Ty Simpson continues to look good throwing the ball. I mean, he's got weapons like Caden Proctor to throw the ball to. So, how can he not succeed, frankly, in that sort of offense? But did Alabama win this game or did Georgia lose it? I felt like Georgia lost this game more than Alabama won it. Now, credit to the Crimson Tide that they should feel good about the fact they were in a position to where it's that small of a margin. It's like when you get a bad call that goes your way, you say, well, you want to put yourselves in a position like this because sometimes this stuff goes your way, or a crazy bounce. Think back to, was it Chad Kelly, the quarterback maybe, or Bo Wallace for Ole Miss that threw that wild pass that hit off a receiver's head and bounced in the air, and then it was a crazy carom, and Ole Miss ran for a long touchdown and upset Alabama in Tuscaloosa. That was many, many years ago. I remember that vividly. And sometimes that stuff can happen, but you've got to be good enough to put yourself in that spot. Alabama was good enough to put themselves in that position. I'm still wondering how sustainable this all is. I'm going to get to that more tomorrow on the pod, but I think Alabama should feel good. I don't think they should feel great. I don't think this is Alabama is fixed, and oh my gosh, I think Georgia just shot themselves in the foot, stepped on the cartoon rake, and whacked themselves in the forehead too many times. Literally dropped the go-ahead touchdown just when we thought we were past that. Right, Georgia? So, anyway, thoughts from around the SEC. I have thoughts on another situation in the SEC. Don't do it, Arkansas. Don't do it. First, this episode brought to you by Quo. One of the tools that help make a huge difference for business owners is Quo, formerly OpenPhone. It's the same great business phone system you've heard me talk about before, just with a new name. And here's why it matters. Every missed call is money left on the table. When every customer conversation counts, you need a phone system that keeps you connected 24/7. Quo is the #1 business phone system that streamlines customer communications. It works right through an app on your phone or computer, so no more carrying two phones or relying on a landline. And Quo, formerly OpenPhone, lets your team share one number and collaborate on calls and texts like a shared inbox, so no customer gets left hanging. See why over 90,000 businesses trust Quo, formerly OpenPhone. Get started free and get 20% off your first 6 months at quo.com/lockedoncollege. That's QUO.com/lockedoncollege. And if you've got existing numbers with another service, Quo will port them over at no extra charge. Quo, no missed calls, no missed customers. I have missed my fair share of picks this year with FanDuel because, well, I don't know the reason, but I'm telling you what you should do every single week. And after another losing week with the odds provided by our friends at FanDuel, I just got to lean into it at this point. I don't think I have another direction to go. I'm trying to do you guys a favor at this point in time. 2-3 after picking Virginia plus 6.5 to be the right pick. Guess what? It was 1-3 after that. But guess what? If you can do better than me, or if you just want to wait for my picks and fade, hey, I have I've had one winning week so far this year. So every Friday, last segment on my Friday show, I do my best bets provided by our friends at FanDuel. They're the best. They've got a bunch of great information. You've got point spreads, money lines, point totals. The information's easy to see. You get it all in one place. It's easy to navigate. So FanDuel is the way to go. And so is fading my picks. I can't even fault you. I can't fault you for it. I'm at 43% on the year. Yikes. It's not good. It's not 46, 40, I think 46% on the year. It's not good. It's not good. Maybe it'll get better. But what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. Sam Pittman is officially out, as I figured he would and should be, at Arkansas. This is just something that I think everybody realized needed to happen. I did understand, and I get the other side of the argument as well, which to some people sounds like talking out of both sides of my mouth. I think it's just being reasonable and level-headed, but that's just me. I get if you were in the camp of give Sam Pittman another year because the offense was so good last season, and you want to give Taylon Green and that side of the ball a shot to see if they can, have a Dave Aranda at Baylor type season last year with Sawyer Robertson once they got around to naming him the starting quarterback. I think that for Arkansas coming into this season, if you thought, well, they should have fired Sam Pittman already. All right, I get it. If you were going to fire a guy because he started poorly through 5 games, then maybe you should have done it before the year. I can go either way. But what I don't want to see Arkansas do is hire Bobby Petrino to be their head coach. So this is a Razorbacks program that in today's modern SEC, I won't sit here and tell you I'm in tune with how competitive they can be in the NIL space. I know they can be more competitive on the field than what they have been because they have had no problem against, frankly, anyone Notre Dame's defense made adjustments over the weekend. That was encouraging if you're an Irish fan. But when you're playing into there were no major vibes or big takeaways coming out of this game other than Arkansas needs a new head coach. And for the Razorbacks, looking at Bobby Petrino, the offensive coordinator, who has expressed his desire, who has reportedly been trying to lay the groundwork to get his name into the fold and make connections with the right people. And of course, he's been at Arkansas before a long time ago. It ended messy, but that was off the field, not on the field. There's a Rich Rod component here that popped into my head. There's a Scott Frost component that popped into my head that made me go, well, those guys are back, and I think they're going to be okay. I mean, Scott Frost is off to a good start this year. They beat the daylights out of North Carolina. They are not that good of a team, but, I mean, they look like they're going to move in the right direction. And Rich Rod at West Virginia, same thing. They're not that good of a team, but I think he's going to get them going in the right direction at some point. I think there are better options if you are Arkansas. It's one thing for those schools to go back, UCF that's new to the Big 12, West Virginia that's in the Big 12, and I'm not anti-Big 12. I'm just saying you're the Arkansas Razorbacks. You should be able to draw a higher caliber of candidates than what Bobby Petrino would be, whose best days I think are behind him. He's older. Does he fully understand how to navigate the college football world of today with NIL and the transfer portal? If you have hesitations or reservations about that, I think you should go in a different direction. I just think there are so many strong candidates out there. And by making this change now, you have the opportunity to get in on the ground floor with those guys as they begin to try and elevate their profile enough to become a head coach in the SEC. Couple names that I'll throw out here. Rhett Lashley at SMU has done nothing really but win for the most part. And I think he's done a really good job with that particular program. No qualms whatsoever. I heard John Neighbors over at Locked On Razorbacks talking about how, he wasn't sure that the new world of college football was really for Sam Pittman. When you have that as an obstacle in your current situation, and now you decide, all right, we need to make a change, I don't want to bring somebody in who was already here and also could be susceptible to those same sorts of shortcomings. Rhett Lashley isn't that. He knows what a strong NIL situation looks like, how to get a good enough roster, how to use the transfer portal, and also he's a good football coach. And he's been around the SEC before. He's currently coaching at SMU, but he's got ties to Auburn going back a ways. And I think Rhett Lashley's a good football coach. He'd be near the top of the list. I tell you the guy I would go get and make tell me no. John Sumrall at Tulane. That's in the SEC footprint. So was Billy Napier coming from the Group of 5 ranks, admittedly. And that hasn't worked out very well for Florida. John Sumrall at each of his last 2 stops has won, and he has won quickly at Troy and at Tulane. It has been, I'm a winner over here, I'm a winner over there, and he's got a darn good football team at Tulane. When Ole Miss beat them last week, 2 weeks ago now, 2 games ago, I did not brush that off as, they beat a Group of 5 team. No, I looked at that and went, wait a minute. That's an impressive performance there from Ole Miss. Hey, this Trinidad Chambliss guy, I didn't buy in fully until they beat LSU this weekend, but I didn't just ignore the win against Tulane, because Tulane is a Power 4 team that's playing in the American Conference. They have beaten Northwestern comfortably, who got their first Big Ten win over the weekend. They beat Duke, who's 2-0 in the ACC. Tulane, there was a foundation laid for sure by Willie Fritz, the Houston head coach, and they scraped by Oregon State late on Friday night. But I think John Sumrall is a really good coach, and he has not just sustained the success of Willie Fritz. I think he's built it up, and they do a lot of things well. You watch Tulane, you feel like you're watching a well-coached football team, because you are. So John Sumrall is a name that I would absolutely, positively throw out there, and frankly, he'd probably be the number 1 guy on my list if I'm Arkansas. It just the retread hire has so many things that can go wrong with it. I don't know why I just whack my desk. I do that sometimes. I move my hands a lot when I talk. Anyway, so I just look at that option and go, is that really the best option? I'd almost go hire Ben Arbuckle, the offensive coordinator from Oklahoma, before I would go and hire Bobby Petrino. And I know that Petrino's coaching abilities are not in serious question. It's not as if he hasn't been a head coach in a really long time. He was at Missouri State and had some success. He's, of course, been the offensive coordinator. He knows Arkansas. He loves Arkansas. There's definitely an upside angle to bringing in Bobby Petrino. I just have higher aspirations for the Arkansas program, I guess. Maybe I'm giving him too much credit. Maybe Bobby Petrino is the best guy that they can go out there and get. But I don't look at what Arkansas is and what they can be and say to myself, yeah, they should just go get a guy who's going to leave them. It's just not. It's not what popped into my head when I heard Sam Pittman fire. Oh, they should absolutely hire Petrino. He's right there. He's right there. Got to take him. I see the angle as to why you'd want that. I don't know. I look at a guy like Alex Golesh at South Florida and say, kind of feel like that's a guy that's proven to be a winner at a program that hasn't won in a long time. And the last time they were relevant, same time Arkansas was relevant, and South Florida has a case to be a top 25 team right now. Maybe they'll be in my top 25 later this week. They've got a pretty good resume. They got blown out by Miami. Okay, Illinois got blown out by Indiana. They're in everybody's top 25. So I hope that Arkansas goes in a different direction than Bobby Petrino, because I think they can do better than that. Like, that's the easy and convenient option. It's not a UCLA hiring Deshaun Foster level move. It is a move of convenience and ease and comfort, and I think you at least go out. It's strange they released a statement saying, we're going to conduct a national search, and Bobby Petrino's a part of it. Well, he's the interim coach now, and he's going to have his chance. And if he goes out and wins a bunch of games this year, yep, he might wind up being the head coach. But he'd have to go out and really, really shine in this head coaching role for me to get on board with Arkansas making that hire. Before I go, it's another big moment on Locked On college football fans. Locked On and Fire TV present College Football Kickoff, your ultimate college football weekly preview. Drake Toll of Locked On Big 12 leads the conversation alongside two-time AP Coach of the Year Gary Patterson, former college star Jesse Holley, and Locked On's local experts. A college football preview only Locked On can do. Catch College Football Kickoff every Thursday throughout the season, only on Fire TV. Appreciate everyone listening. I will see you next time, and until then, hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day.